Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Irish Furion. I am the Irish Furion. And good morning to you. Hopefully, you're hearing me okay. I'm using the mic. I noticed that on a few of the streams. Um, I noticed that on a few of the streams. Well, there's one stream there. I was doing it and I was saying, I'm now using the headset earpiece. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? And there should have been poof, 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 when I was doing that. There was nothing. So the sound was obviously coming through the microphone on the actual phone itself, because it had that little bit of a kind of had more of a room sound to it as well. So hopefully now I've set the audio to the actual separate piece. So again, this is just another morning chat where we all just kind of file in, sit down, make ourselves comfortable, have a bit of a chin wag, talk about this, talk about that. I'll give it 15 minutes as always. First 15 minutes, see how many come in, see how many want to talk. So again, it's another wet day here. Another wet day. There's a bit of a kind of like an opening in the sky. So yeah, we shall see. Bit of an opening. There's less rain just falling at the moment, but like all around the horizon there's dark clouds. So it really does look like Mordor. So yeah, and I got my GAC coffee. Absolutely GAC. So I won't be buying another jar of that. It'll be I'll try something else. Well, if I can get my usual coffee, I'll get that, of course. That's really nice stuff. But I won't be getting that blue Maxwell House. There's probably some people who like the blue Maxwell House. Everybody to each their own when it comes to that, and taste buds and all the rest of it. I saw a very interesting thing once on what was it? It was on how different people with different genetic markers. There was something about, we say, genetics anyway. I think it was about genetics that it influenced taste. People who had a certain genetic marks, or I don't think it was epigenetics. I think it was just genetics. But and it's gas, because what tasted really nice to one person tasted awful to the next person, and it was down to their genetic makeup. Bum, 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 bum. And I'm not even talking about different races or different ethnic groups. I'm talking about even just within the same ethnic group, like that, two different people, because of, we say, their genetic backgrounds. I don't know how it was put. I can't remember, but it was showed that they had strikingly different, draws towards different foods. It was interesting. Okay. All right. So anybody want to throw up something? I'll throw your comment up on the screen, and we'll have a chin wag about it. I'm involved in a few different projects at the moment, DIY projects, home projects, stuff that I'm making myself. And if we get a few more people in the room, we'll talk about it. Talk about them. I was out on the bike yesterday, and I just washed the bike this morning, the electric bike that I built. It was the worst I'd ever seen it. It was covered in leaves and branches and twigs, trees hanging off the side of it. It was just unreal. No, but seriously, there was a serious cleaning needed. And the chain as well. It's funny, when you do something yourself like that, when you do a DIY project like that, you find that you find out things which you kind of took for granted with things before. So what I mean is that bike, it has a manganese steel chain, and it gets rusty. Like, it gets rusty after every submersion in water, when it's been really wet out. Little spots of rust start to form on individual links, and You actually have to get in there with a rag. And sorry about that now. That's AliExpress telling me coupon. But I really have to shut off the notifications for that company, you know. But that's where, yeah, that's where I bought most of the stuff for the bike. Which, if you're going to buy structural things from China, shall we say, like a bike frame or front suspension for a bike and all that, just be prepared to do an extra little bit of work, because sometimes they don't come completely straight. Sometimes there's a bend somewhere, or it could have been made poorly. Which in my case, the frame was made poorly. It was I think it was welded without a jig. Like when they make bike frames, they make them with a jig, which is kind of like on a welder's table. You weld in little bits of metal to hold, like, round the bits of metal around and lock them into their shape and dimensions, you know. And it's the same thing when building a bicycle frame. You basically build a jig for it. But this was made so poorly, like it's in two parts. You got the main frame and you got the swing arm. The swing arm is where the rear suspension attaches to the main frame, and you've got the rear wheel here. The swing arm itself was actually, like, if you're looking from above, shall we say, with the bike, the swing arm itself was actually like bent to one side. And so I was going around the bike for ages like that, and it didn't really have much of an effect. It was only a slight bend. But only after about, say, 8 months of actually having the bike up and running, did I go to a metal worker up the road there, and actually he let me use his large vise that's bolted to the ground, and actually I put the bushings where the main frame and the swing arm meet. Afternoon, Colin, how's it going? Rain, yeah. So basically I put the main frame and the swing arm into the yeah. I must have said his name 3 times in my sleep, and that's what happened. Yeah, I have a very small head. My turn. I just have a very small head. It's I was born like this. You're gonna mock me now. You're gonna mock a person because of the way they were born. That's just not nice. My turn. So no, I'll tell you what it is. It's the cameras on mobile phones. They're wide angle. So look, if I put my finger in towards the screen, see how long it gets, while everything else behind stretches it backwards. That's so that if you're out taking a picture, the default, like to get to, say, the focal length of the human eye, you actually, if you have a zoom function, like a sliding zoom function on your camera app on your phone, move it in a small bit, and when you zoom in, it actually then becomes the focal length of your human eye. Hello, the master. How's it going? Very good. Okay, we're getting a few in now. So yeah, so when I got the frame from China, the rear arm was bent to one side slightly. So, and a metal worker, a guy up the road, let me put it in his vise, and basically I just grabbed the back of it and I just pulled where the brakes go in at the very back, and I just cold bent it. So steel. I made sure that I bought the frame steel so that I could do these things in case there were issues. I didn't buy an aluminium frame. I specifically made sure it was steel. The steel you can work with. Steel you can cut, steel you can bend, steel you can weld, and all of that. So when I was ordering the parts, the main parts, the frame for the electric bike that I built, I made sure it was made, the material was steel. But let's see, I thought you like wearing 25 jackets. Do you remember that 40 coats in his 40 coats in it? It didn't say 40 coats in his 40 pockets, wasn't it? It was pockets, I think. 40 coats would be 40 pockets. But yeah, so this is how I stay warm, you know, with my small head. This is how I keep my big body and my small head warm. So yeah, basically I cold bent the frame back into alignment. Also, when I got the front suspension, which is what they call triple crown, you know, like on a motorbike where the two stanchions go all the way up towards the handlebars, it's got those. So it's got those big two stanchions, triple crown suspension. And when I got it, the cross member, which is down just over the wheel, that piece of metal, where the two stanchions were bent. When I tried to fit the axle of the front wheel in, it wouldn't fit because like I said, there's your two dropouts. They're called dropouts that go over the axle of the wheel. They were bent to one side, and what I had to do was take it over to a metal worker and cut that cross member, and then rotate the stanchions back into position, and then re-weld the cross member so that the axle of the front wheel could fit in. So my point in all of this is, if you're going to buy structural stuff from China, just be prepared to do an extra bit of work on it. So Master says hello. Colin Rochford says he was also a writer. Who is also a writer, Colin? Did I miss something there? Did I miss something? The Master said he'd be played by a black man in current times. Okay, guys, what are you talking about? Come on, fill me in here. What are you talking about? Colin Rochford said he was also a writer. What did I miss? So we'll go Column's comment first. He was also a writer. Column, who was also a writer? Who are you talking about there? So yeah, that's the thing with the bike. So I washed out the bike, washed off the bike this morning. It was just coated and stuff. I get confused. I got confused. I was thinking of that guy in RT. Are you talking about, was it the guy who played the guy who played 40 Coats, is it? Yeah, that's the thing. Most of those guys were, most of those guys who were actors in RT at the time, they were those, weren't they? They did multiple things. They were writers, and they were writers, they were actors, they were oftentimes playwrights, and what else? Script writers and comedians, So that yeah, Master says 40 Coats. My turn says that seems like a lot of work. Scrap and get a skateboard. It's just with no welding or hard work. I'm 49. My turn. I'm not going to be pushing on a skateboard. I could, but I'd rather go further in a much more comfortable method. So we sold books on a boundary. Oh no, Colin, you're thinking of Pat Inglesby. I met him. Yeah, I was a big fan of his for a long time. I have 2 or 3, if not 4. No, I have about 3 of his poetry books. You're thinking of Pat Inglesby. That's not who 40 Coats was. 40 Coats was he was an old. Oh, he's not that old. You're talking maybe at least the 80s. Irish actor on RTE. Yeah, no, Pat Inglesby's a different guy. I know they're both kind of hairy, long-haired, hairy guys. Pat Inglesby sold books on West. Yes, I met him. I met him there. I don't know if it was Westmoreland Street. I met Pat Inglesby about 15 years ago on the street from now. Don't shoot me for this. I don't know my way around Dublin that well, but it was up from the university. So it was the street that goes up the side. It used to have the photography place on it. Maybe somebody will know. Can't spell. No worries, guys. Just say whatever you're saying. We'll interpret it as best we can. Yeah. Do I have the books there? Where are Pat Inglesby's books? Where are they? I'm not going to race off screen now and just see if the books are on the shelf in there, but they were nice. At the time, I found his poetry moving. Now I'd say I could find it a little bit. I don't know. I haven't read them since, so I can't say that. Off from the GPO, maybe. Yeah, maybe. So yeah, this street is kind of like you cross a busy street, and behind you as you're leaving it is a big, it's probably the GPO, Colin, exactly. That's probably the GPO. And then you're walking up a street, which is a slight incline, slight hill, with, again, I think it's the university on your left. And you have a number of shops on the right there. And one of them in the 90s or the early 2000s used to be an Irish photography shop. which was in a few different towns around Ireland. Just when I was doing photography, served my time in Dublin. I got the street by first. Did you? Yeah. Well, Pat could have been on a few different streets, you know. That's the thing about Pat. The gas thing about Pat Inglesby is that he was a nice guy, you know, but he could be very difficult as well. He could be very moody. He could, you know, disagreeable, I think is the word. He could be disagreeable at times. But also he was could be a very sweet man. I got talking to him. Do you know what he started talking about? I remember now what he was talking about that day when I stopped and talked to him. That day he started telling me that one of his friends had hung himself. How about that? That's what, and that he wasn't in a great mood. Pat was. I think himself and is it Don Baker? Don Baker, the mouth organ guy. Himself and Don Baker were and maybe are still friends, and that they both were maybe part of an organization for survivors from sexual child abuse. I think that's what brought them together, maybe originally. Yeah, so you know, one of those lives, one of those tough lives, like. Yeah, Pat Inglesby. Pat, I remember Pat's chat. I remember Pat Inglesby from the television. Yeah. So you wonder. All right then. So what else are we talking about here? Who else is talking? Who else is mentioned here? We must find out who the actor is that played Forty Coats. Is anybody on a laptop out there? Can they quickly open a page in Google and find out who the actor was that played what's his name? Played Forty Coats. You know, like they were the programs I grew up with as a kid. Forty Coats, Wanderly Wagon. They were the Irish programs I grew up with. But like, I actually grew up in a town outside of Dublin. He definitely moved around. Yeah, yeah, he did. He did. Well, he would have had to, suppose, to sell his poetry books. He would have had to get a bit of exposure in different areas to sell them. He'd have them all laid out on the ground. That's what I remember. He'd have the poetry books all laid out, and you know, you'd go over and you'd just look at them and have a rifle through a few pages and see what you think of some of the poems and stuff. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, if anybody's got any of the pages open from Google, if you're on a laptop, yeah, yeah. Now especially, it wasn't too bad back then. I mean, they were still around, but yeah, it's a sign of the times that you know, the loss of community, the loss of meaning in community for young men, that you know, and then the injection of drugs into our society is you know, becomes very visible then after a while, you know. So bike is washed. You have to do describing all the details. You know, I just want you to know how hard it is, right? It's not easy. Like, so wash the entire frame, wash the inside of the rims, wash the outside of the tires, because this bike looks good, you know, and you've got to keep it looking good. Washed off all the dirt, muck, and mud that was on splashed up onto the mud guards. It was just the worst I'd ever seen it. So that's all done, and then I had to go, you know, just get a rag with oil and just spin the chain, then go along where there was no, actually all the rust came off pretty easy, dabs of rust. Then I had to go inside the sprockets, each sprocket at the back wheel, to get out all the bits of debris and detritus, you know. So that's all done. The bike is clean as a whistle, but it's still wet outside, and I'm gonna have to do that every morning for the winter. But I don't mind. It's part of a routine, and brings about structure. So, all right. Anybody, anything else to talk about? Anybody want to mention anything? What I did notice actually was, what I've noticed is Paddy Power. Paddy Power's adverts are getting very diverse, aren't they? Good Lord. Like, anytime I'm watching YouTube now, you know, that's like, it's phenomenal. It's highly noticeable. Like, as I was saying, like, the percentages of our countries are not that. So why, I won't say why, we know why this is being pushed, because they want the populations of those countries coming into ours and becoming the new populations, um, and to mix with our populations of the native peoples. So it's social engineering, really, what we're talking about. So the adverts that are petty power that are going on right now are social engineering. This is why I keep telling people don't watch TV. I'm also making a bushcraft knife. This is the other project. So here's some knife steel. And as you can see, I have the tang. If anybody knows anything about making knives, this is a big knife. Obviously, it's going to be a big knife, but it's going to be a big knife because I'll be using it for batoning. So the handle, I don't want that marker comes off pretty easy. It's not a permanent marker. So that's the for anybody who doesn't know anything about, we say, woodworking or metalwork, anywhere where you have the lines cut is where you're going to remove. So these are the screws that I'm going to use. There's going to be two. There's going to be one in each. There'll be a wooden handle, and then I'll use an angle grinder to remove the metal. And it's this large because for batoning. So let's say you're out, you want to chop through a large chunk of wood, like a tree trunk, a section of tree trunk to put logs on the fire or whatever. If you don't have an axe, you can use one of these. You basically put it down through the top of the piece of wood, and you get another piece of wood, and you baton down the other side, and that drives down through the wood. So that's why I'm making one that long. Also good for cutting through briars and things like that. So, and that's specific steel metal. That is 80 CrV2. All right, so that is actual knife metal. And then, of course, like the ideal thing to have is like a belt sander. A belt sander, you run along like that to cut them to create the apex of the knife. And I would like some hardwood, beautiful hardwood to actually create the handle. We'll see. I may just settle for a light pine or something like that, just to begin with. Okay, so we got something here from the master. Up the GPO. Let's see. Column says up the GPO. Indeedy. And the master says, "Sir, let's see now. Serve my time in Dublin. I got the street. Yeah, I've been through this yet. You definitely avoid this Mac yet. I was reading a book by an Austrian painter last night. Pretty good. Oh yeah, I've never read that. There are books. There are books that I would like to read in my life before I die, and I mean read fully, read from start to finish. So I'd like to read the Bible. I'd like to read the Quran. I'd like to read some of the Jewish books like the Talmud, maybe the Kabbalah, the Torah, and I would like to read Manufacturing Consent by what's his name? Edward Bernays. And that book by the Austrian painter. I'd like to read that one as well. So there's a lot of them. I mean, those books that are just set in stone throughout history, but then you don't know. You think Chomsky's a good read, would be good to read. So all right. Geez, we're only down to one now. We had, I think, about 7 at one stage, and maybe it was when I was talking about the knife, they all disappeared. Ooh, maybe it was when I was talking about the bicycle, the electric bike that I built, that some disappeared. It's cast away like people don't hang about go, oh, I'm not interested in this anymore. I'm off. It's not like there's not going to be something else coming along in a short period of time. No, are you sure about that? No, it was Edward Bernays, wasn't it? Manufacturing Consent. Are you sure about that? I'll check afterwards. I'll have a look and listen. Are you sure? If you have a laptop open, can you check that? Can you're probably sure of that, and you're probably more sure than I am, but I thought it was Edward Bernays who wrote Manufacturing Consent. Okay then. Really? Chomsky wrote that. Lordy. Eh? Well, I've been mixing my metaphors, eh? Right. Okay. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for setting me right on that. What did Edward Bernays write anything? He must have. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, and didn't he do all the research into how to manipulate mass populations' consciousness? Um, I thought Bernays, Edward Bernays, yeah, and I think Edward is spelled could be with the W, but it could also be Eduard, Edward that way, you know. Bernays, I'm not sure how Bernays is spelled. Could be with an AIS, but it could be spelled that way as well. And you'll get it. I mean, if you just put it in, you'll do you? Uh-huh. What's the name? What's the name of the book? Do you have it to hand that you can actually check the title on that? Is it just called Propaganda, or are you just saying propaganda? Okay. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was the study of propaganda. Yeah, Bernays did do a lot on propaganda, the study of it. Yeah, and that's why I was getting confused with the idea that it was Edward Bernays wrote Manufacturing Consent. You know. Edward Bernays. Yeah, so there are some major books that I would like to actually read before I get too old to read. I'd like to read the holy books of the major faiths, you know, the Bible, Quran, and so forth. Propaganda is the Bernays. Oh, it's actually just called Propaganda. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'd like to read that actually. I would. That is something I would like to read. Yeah. Mm. Is it? Okay. Short book. Short book by short man. They don't always use short man. I don't know. I'm just saying that. Um, so yeah, I started reading a book by Hume, and I started reading a book by who was the other guy? Oh man, can't think of any of them now. They're two huge books in here, thick books. Interesting. Uh, bum, 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 bum. Uh, give me a second, right? This is just going to niggle me now. Okay. Anything you want to say there, stick it in the chat, and anything to add to that conversation. All right. Right. I did find the Pat Inglesby books. And I got Hume and John Locke. That's it, yeah. Okay. Right. Put that there. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So the Pat Inglesby books. I think I have a third one as well. I do have a small one somewhere. But this is one called Beautiful Cracked Eyes by Pat Inglesby. All right. And the short ones. Okay. So I'm just going to read one. I picked one, just open the page, and I'm going to read it. Okay. This is called Cueing. Quiet and quiet as quietness be, swishing ease incoming sea, loosening gravel little shells, free, whispering love things for you and me. Okay, that's Cueing by Pat Inglesby. You can read that any way you want. I actually got him to sign this, I think. Yeah, look, there's a Pat's signature. Lots of love. Does he say my name? From no, just from Pat. Only had cats, Willow and Hoot. My house, Clontar. So let's see. On third thoughts. So this one is called "If You Don't Tell Anybody, I Won't." And on third thoughts, it says, "A butterfly zigzags all over the place because all the time it's thinking, it's this way. I know shit. It's that way. Ah, no, it's the other way. Hang on. It's up there. It's up here. Actually, no, I think it's down there." I blame their mothers. So that's "If You Don't Tell Anybody, I Won't." Pat Inglesby. Is he still alive? You know, I'm not keeping up with the Joneses. Right, and these are the two kind of philosophical works that I have there by. They're not the Enlightenment, are they? They're not Enlightenment thinkers. No. Is there some, we'll say, term that covers the period in which these guys were doing their bit? This is the essential philosophical works of Hume, and I'll read it out to you. Yeah, sure. Hang on. An essay concerning human understanding, John Locke. That's a good book. It's a good book, but you can see how it dismantles Christianity and it eventually is one of the main factors for the dismantling of Christianity. But it's a good read, and you have to take it slow because they're written in an earlier type of English. Not too early. It's still in an English that's understandable, but you have to take it section by section and think about what it is you're reading. And I find that very interesting. I like doing that. When I thought elites in society, excellent, the master. See, that's it. Throw in some stuff there like that. We'll unpack it. Bernays thought elites in society could be utilized to persuade the plebs. Persuade the plebs, an example. Your grammar's not doing any favors for me there, the master. An example in Ireland is the government puppet, Blind Boy. Who's Blind Boy? Excuse me. Bernays thought elites in society could be utilized to persuade the plebs, an example in Ireland. Could be utilized to persuade the plebs. Well, pleb, I know the pleb is a Greek word for, don't think it's Latin, I think it's Greek, for the, is it plebiscite? They are the members of the voting population. Is government puppet Blind Boy? Who's the Blind Boy, the master? Who are you talking about there? Who is that? Can you enlighten me on that? I'll hang about. I'll just be reading you. So yeah, well, it's better. It's better you never heard of him. He's in. Oh really? Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I get the dynamic you're describing here now. Use persuade the plebs an example. Please announce that you persuade the plebs. Yeah. So you're talking about like people in the media, or we say, the common touch, who have a representative in comedy or TV or movies, and then that they can be used to carry the message of the ruling elites. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Well, that I can understand. Yeah. Let's see where my charger is. I have enough yet. That's okay. Yeah. Let's say they're all about the late show when they want to push a specific agenda towards the masses. Yeah. Well, they do that with everything, though. That's what I would say about that. Is that watch out for everything. Like as I described, like with the Paddy Power adverts that are now being shown on YouTube. Like, watch how the camera is moved and who's in the background and then who moves to the foreground, like as in race. You know, there's not one there's not one with a like Paddy Power is an Irish name. I don't know if it's an Irish betting agency, but the advert I saw was that there was an African lady behind the European person talking in the foreground, sitting down in a coffee shop, something like that, or I don't know what it was, you know. But then he kept talking, swinging, and then it moved around to here, and then it was an African man throwing something up in the air, celebrating, you know. But then it cut to an Eastern European man sitting in the back of a taxi, driven by a Pakistani or an Indian, you know. So like that type of rhetoric, visual rhetoric, is all over TV. It's all over Netflix. It's everywhere, you know. So they're constantly at it. Like he's just when they wheel somebody out like that. Yeah, I mean those guys are very funny, and then I don't know whether they start out as themselves doing their own thing, and then they get hijacked by handlers, and then they get offered great sums of money, or they get threatened with some vice that they've been caught out in, or both, carrot and stick. And then they say, you know, here's your opportunity to go on the Late Late Show, shall we say, and you know, we want you to mention this, this, and this, you know. So, but like that's just the obvious, you know. I mean that it's everywhere. I've seen it firsthand. I'm not black. It doesn't matter if you are. It's like that's not the point. The master, even if you were black, that's not the point. I would have no problem with that. The point is the manipulation of minds. The point is the system that's doing it. That's what I have an issue with. I have an issue with lies and deceit being used, as we're talking here about Edward Bernays, you know. And I must look that up as well, though, what you said there about manufacturing consent by Chomsky. I want to read that. You know, it's the manipulation of minds that I have an issue with for somebody else's agenda, for my land, the land of my people, and you know, my mother's people, my father's people, you know, in our land. I have a problem with that. Like even if you were African, not a bother, wouldn't bother me in the slightest. You know, the issue is the manipulation of minds to think that Ireland should become Africa, you know, or partially African. That's my issue. You know, it's nobody has a right to decide that. That's for God and God alone to decide. So we're human beings. We don't have godlike minds. We should, and neither should the people who are doing this to us, who are putting out those adverts, who are putting out those movies, who are putting these people on the Late Late Show. That's my issue. You know, I may have flogged that horse a little too hard. Oh, cool, deadly. All right, so yeah, I'd like to read the book too. Though I'm visually looking at everything really too much. I need to get back to reading as well, because I mean I grew up reading. I ate books as a child. I just ate them from a very early age. I ate books, and now like at this stage of my life, all I'm doing is visually, passively watching stuff. So I would like to read. As I said, I would like to read. I would like to read some of the most, you know, important books in the world, and I would like to, like, I don't want to see the documentary version of the Bible or the Quran or the Talmud or the Torah, or I don't want to see the I want to read them, you know, like, because that's their truest form. That's the form that they're in. So I'd like to read those. But if that documentary is on YouTube, I'll have a look at that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna start reading your poems from Pat's books if you don't start telling me stuff. You know, I'm gonna read a poem unless somebody says something that we can unpack and talk about. All right. Going up the stairs and beauties of Cork. Oh God, the sparkles in the steps of the stairs send me spinning this way and that until I'm afraid to look at them. When I reach the top, I am higher and crazier than the stairs. Just when my feet are landing on the ground, a woman walks past me with silver sparkles in her sweater. Everything is coming apart. That's going up the stairs in Bewley's of Cork, 27/4/95. So he even puts the date that he wrote it. You don't need to be a Chomsky fan to enjoy it, of course. Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, it's how these things are presented, isn't it? Yeah, shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. I was actually clicking away on a pen there on one of the last videos. Clickable pen that I have there, and I can hear it snapping away in the background, clicking as I was talking, and I don't think it makes for a pleasurable experience for people tuning in on the video. So now you're gonna have to explain who Mick Barry is, the master. You know, I'm a concept guy. I'm unpack ideas and deceits and lies and puzzles and all that. So you're going to have to tell me just who Mick Barry is. Who is Mick Barry? Cork TD trying to push. Oh yeah. Aha. Who thought the president really? Is he a Cork guy? Good lord. Cork TD. Is he like a member of any of the parties here? Is he like Solidarity or People Before Profit or any one of those? Do you know? No, that should not go through, obviously. You know, where's my referendum? Well, you know, it was the same for all the things that happened in this country. You know, when Leo Varadkar went off and signed the Global Compact for Migration in Marrakesh on December the 10th and the 11th, which signs away the native people's rights of Europe, Britain, and Ireland, and those rights are superseded by migrant rights. Anybody calling themselves a migrant, well, there you go. Exactly. Like I got no referendum for the Global Compact for Migration, did I? Or did you? I don't think so. So, yeah, they're an open borders Marxist organization. You know, openly they are. People before profit. You know. Mick Barry, he's the main contender in Cork for People Before Profit. All right, all right. Birthright citizens. You see, this like our country is being invaded at the moment, and what they want to do is pull out all the stops, you know, so that there's no bulwark against a flood of people coming here. Like they want this. This is part of the same thing that's going on at the moment. You know, the whole thing with masks, with 2 meters apart, with the closing down of businesses. It's the same people. It's the same people enacting the same agenda. You know, as far as I know, as far as I can tell, you know, any child under 18 living here for 3 years will automatically get citizenship. Under 18 for 3 years citizenship. Yeah, but you see, like, where do I begin on that? Like, I mean, I'm not for the giving away of citizenship at all. I'm an ethno-nationalist. I believe this land should only be given to people and is only in the birthright of the people who live here. So, like, what am I going to say to that? You know, like if you say to me, you know, anybody coming here who works and does good work and contributes to the GDP and to the economy should eventually be given citizenship. Like, I get that there's some wonderful people coming here, and like some of my best friends are foreign nationals, you know. So, like I have to say, I have to draw a line, you know. I have to paint that line on the ground, and I have to say, I don't retreat back past this line, and I have to do that. I have to do that. Otherwise, like if I go with that, right? So like it's, you know, if you even were to say 10 years for that, any child under 18 living here for 10 years will automatically get citizenship, apparently. Okay, so we'll go even further. Say any adult any child, adult living under 18, over 18, here for the last whatever, I don't know, but like, where does it end? Like, they're making non-Irish people Irish. They're giving away my identity, you know? Like, that's what citizenship is. It's basically you're giving the identity of the native inhabitants whose people have inhabited these lands for centuries. You know, you're saying you too can be who I am. Now that makes no sense to me. How can they be? Like, there's only one reason you would say to somebody, "You too can be who I am." Is I can imagine only like, think in terms of a tribe, right? So you've got a tribe of people, and that tribe wants to make somebody else a member of their tribe. They have to have good reasons for that. You know, the good reasons would be marriage. It benefits the tribe, and that's fine. So you can take in a certain number of people through migration, as we did in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. Like, that's kind of normal. You do that because you don't want a completely stagnant genetic pool. But what's happening right now is on the other end of the spectrum of that. It's anybody who's coming here can be made Irish, and the key term is anybody. And so what that does is it dilutes my identity, my history, my heritage, my inheritance down to nothing. Nothing, you know? Like, this is communism. Communism overlooks culture, it overlooks history. It seeks to flatten those out so that its own system can be put in place. A mechanical, clinical system that has no interest in actual human dynamics of culture, heritage, and history. And it just wants itself to be structured in a way that goes, okay, there's a certain number of people in the world. We need to shuffle them about a certain way. We need to allocate them to certain countries to make it so that everything becomes sustainable. But for every good intent, a negative and deleterious effect is caused, and vice versa. So by even with good intent going, we need to make life sustainable for, I don't know, 8 billion, 9 billion people on the planet. And so we're going to allocate them to different countries while making sure this country produces metal, this country produces beef, this country produces, and that's a very mechanical, bureaucratic, centralized authority, centralized power and authority way of dealing with that situation. But it's because we're all living on the same system, the world banking system, the world economy. So it's only natural that that kind of system would seek to find balance in a more chaotic situation. So this is why I say, if you get off the system by growing your own food, having large families, that will be your insurance as you age, and so on, the way it was meant to be with human beings. Develop communities with like-minded individuals. You create your own sustainable system, but you need a morality to do so. You need a morality to trust the people within that community and that system, for it to work. That's always been the way. That's the one thing that makes large groups of people be able to live in peace with each other. So Mikelal Martin said, nationalism is a backwards looking idea. Wonder, does he have the same view of Israeli nationalism? Well, yeah, yeah. Well, who you rule by when you can't criticize. You know who's calling the shots when when it's one rule for you and one rule for another. So, um, that's the argument I bring up every time somebody talks about that. Like when I say I'm a nationalist, I don't just say I'm a nationalist for Ireland. I say I'm a nationalist for Nigeria. I'm a nationalist for Brazil. I'm a nationalist for India. I'm a nationalist for Pakistan. I believe those people, I believe Nigerians should have a country called Nigeria. I believe Pakistanis should have a country called Pakistan for them. So I can't do that and not say I believe that Ireland should be a country for the Irish because I wouldn't be I would it would be imbalanced. It wouldn't be a view which holds continuous value across the entire set. You know, the same value across the entire set. It would be favoritism in one area, another, and uh, it would be where's my mind going with all this? It would be chaotic, it wouldn't be true. There wouldn't be a truth to it because I would say that I don't think there should be nationalism for the Irish. I think everybody can come here, take my identity, become me, so that Irish identity basically has no inherent value or meaning because now Africans, Brazilians, Indians, and everybody can be Irish. So now Irish has actually no real inherent value or meaning because it's a term which now has widened so great that it has no specification, you know. So and then go on to say that I believe Nigeria is for the Nigerians, and I believe that India is for the Indians. I believe Pakistan is for the Pakistanis. I believe Italy is for the Italians, and so on. And but not for the Irish. I mean, it's madness. So I'm a nationalist. I'm a nationalist for all nations. Nations of people to have their own countries, and their nations within those countries. You know. So I have to. I mean, I have to stand up for my own people. I have to stand up for my own identity. Uh, not only is it true, but I would, people wouldn't respect me. Who would respect me if I didn't stand up for my identity and my people first? I'd have no respect. You know. I mean, it's a it's not a masculine thing to do to go. You know, um, I believe we're all one. We're not all one. You know, I believe that all countries, like we're not, like you're not me, I'm not you. Like that's a reality. That's a truth. You know, um, I believe, that Spaniards and Irish and people will actually make those contradictions in the terms that they use. They're using specific definitions like Spanish, Italians, Irish. Those are specific groups, But to say Spanish, Italians, and Irish, if they all contain the same ethnic groups, then why are you using those terms? Stop using those terms because they're all the same now. So nation and ethnicity and race no longer has any meaning because of the inability of people to think critically, which is why they're all wearing masks now and standing 2 meters apart. And businesses are going to be closing themselves down because they can't think critically. You know, they're acting on a rote. Like you can talk to the most, busy, um, busy, hardworking business owners in the cities and towns where you live. And those people have no shortage of, we say, getting up at 5 in the morning, working through their day, doing what they do every day. But a lot of them can't think critically. They're not able to think that if they keep doing what they're doing, eventually it'll come for their business. And that's a lack of critical thinking, you know? So they have this other dimension, this aspect of themselves, which allows them to they're wired to actually work like mules all day, but not think critically that if they continue to actually have to wear masks, people wear masks, have to stand 2 meters apart, be afraid of being in physical proximity of another human being, and so on and so forth. And their businesses have to shut down during the level 5 lockup, that eventually their businesses, it will come for them, you know, that they will have to close. I get that they're probably living in the moment and they're going, well, I'm going to do what I can for now. I'm going to do what I can for now. I'm going to do the best I can for now, and whatever happens later. I get all that. I get that. But in the long term, if they continue to enact the policies and accept the tyrannical laws being created by these people in power, it's going to come for them as well, their businesses, So critical thinking is something that is hasn't been encouraged for the longest time, I think. And whether it's even possible for the majority of people to be able to think critically is something that should be researched, I think. Like, I didn't always think critically. I come from a background of the arts. I come from the background of art, visual art, and of music. And we're known for more for being empathic, feeling based vocations and career choices. But I had to teach myself to think critically. To go B follows A, C follows B, D follows C, and to do that and see to unpack and unravel certain ideas. And when I did, this is where it led me to see how we live in a world of lies and deceit being foisted upon us, which is also why I'm leaving atheism as well, for that reason. Economics is now the main factor driving society. Nothing else gets consideration. It is not the basis of a nation. Well said, the master. Well said. Well said. Exactly. Exactly. That is so true. I'm down to 3% on my phone. I'm going to go now. Yeah. So look at all the books. Yeah. So what was the thing? Manufacturing consent, Chomsky. Propaganda, Edward Bernays. Look after yourselves. Thanks for watching. I'm flying by the seat of my pants with these live chats. I'm making it up as I go along. I'm doing my best to kind of keep it somewhat entertaining and not bore the crap out of you. And I hope that you get something out of each one. I would say if it gets a little bit quiet during a particular section, it then livens up later when we come to another idea that we can talk about and chat about. And it's great to have the input of the regulars here. Okay, take care.